You won't be confused anymore, because in this video I will give you the best PC build for your exact budget, ranging from $150 all the way to $10,000. First budget tier, $150. Let's start with the people who are completely broke. You only have $150 and nothing more. For this budget, I recommend buying a pre-built workstation with an i5 or an i7 from 4th gen to 6th gen. It depends on your luck and the country you live in, but I'll leave some examples from eBay. Make sure it has 16GB of RAM and an SSD storage. Even if it's just 128GB for the Windows, that's fine, and you can use an HDD for the rest of your games. After you buy a workstation, then you're gonna add one of these GPUs, an RX 580, RX 570, GTX 1650, or the GTX 1050 Ti, depending on the power supply that is inside the workstation. Personally, I think the best choices for this budget are the RX 580 and the RX 570. If you're lucky, you might find a Ryzen 3 build for $150, but that's really rare. You will need patience and you will need to hunt for such deals. Unlike workstations, they are much more common and available all the time. This setup will run most games at 1080p, but you will struggle a bit with newer titles like Dying Light the Beast and similar games. Now for the other budget, $250. This one was kinda hard to build. Honestly, if you try to build something yourself here, it won't be worth it. So just save yourself the effort, watch the used market, and buy a full build if that's your budget. But most likely you will get a system with a Core i5 or a Core i7 ranging from 6th gen all the way to 8th gen, and these specs will give you a decent performance on 1080p running almost all games. Third budget that we have for today, $370. Now we're getting into better territory. Here's what I recommend. For the CPU, the Ryzen 5 2600, which will cost you $40, is a really good CPU for this budget, but if you can stretch it a little bit more, you can go for the Ryzen 5 3600. It's gonna give you better performance. For the RAM, we're gonna put 16GB, which at the time in my country cost around $60. For the motherboard, you can get the A320, around $60, but it is better if you can afford the B450 for better upgradability in the future. For the power supply, 500 watts is more than enough for this build. For the case, just pick any case that is around $25. Fans don't matter, nothing really matters in the case, just pick whatever case that you can buy. For the storage, we're gonna have 120GB SSD for the operating system and a 500GB HDD for games. For the GPU, it depends on your remaining budget. Personally, I love the GTX 1660 Ti. You can also go stronger, like the RTX 2060 Super or the RX 5700 XT. This build will run all games at 1080p smoothly and give you around 60 FPS in most games. Fourth budget tier, $550. One of my favorite budgets. For the CPU, we're gonna go with the Ryzen 5 3600. Great all-around CPU. One of the best CPUs that AMD has ever made. For the RAM, of course, 16GB is more than enough. Still, for the motherboard, we're gonna pick the B450. For the storage, we're gonna put a 512GB SSD. For the case, I dedicated $40 for the case. It's up to you. For the power supply, we're gonna pick 600 watts for better upgradability. Make sure it's a good brand. And finally, for the GPU, there are two options that I love, which are the RX 6600 XT and the RTX 3060. And this build will run all games at 2K with no issues, and some games will even go above 60 FPS. Fifth budget tier, $700. This is the most popular category that I see. And for the CPU, we're gonna pick the Ryzen 5 5600. For the RAM, we're gonna go with 16GB or 32GB if you're planning on editing videos or doing other things that require more RAM. For the motherboard, we're gonna go with the B450, still more than enough. For the power supply, 650 watts is more than enough. And for the case, I dedicated $50 for the case. It's up to you. And for the storage, 1TB of SSD, preferably M.2. And finally, for the GPU, there are two GPUs that I love for this category, which are the RTX 3070 and the RX 6700 XT. This build will run all games at 1440p on ultra settings in most cases. Sixth budget tier, $1,000. In my opinion, this is the best value and ideal for most people. For the CPU, we're gonna go with the Ryzen 5 7600 or 7500F. For the RAM, we're gonna go with 32 gigabytes. For the motherboard, we will pick the B650. For the power supply, 750 watts are more than enough and very good for future upgradability. For the case, just buy whatever case you want. For the storage, 1TB M.2 is more than enough. And for the GPU, my favorite is the RX 9060 XT, but if you're tight on budget, you can pick the RX 6700 XT and upgrade it later. This build gives you excellent 2K performance with high FPS and great upgradability potential thanks to the DDR5 RAM that we have and the newer platform, which is the M5. 7th budget tier, $1,500. Same as the previous build, but you can upgrade the GPU to an RX 9070 XT or the RTX 5070. This will run games at 1440p on max settings with no problem. 8th budget tier, $2,400. For the CPU, we're gonna pick the Ryzen 5 9600X, which is great for gaming and editing. For the RAM, we're gonna pick 32 gigabytes. For the motherboard, we're gonna go with the B650 or the B850. I do prefer the B850, but you don't really have to. You can go with the B650, it's fine. For the power supply, 800 watts is more than enough. For the case, just pick whatever. For the storage, 1TB M.2 is gonna be enough. And finally, the GPU. You can go with the RX 9700 XT or the RTX 5080 or the RTX 5070 Ti, depending on your budget. And final tier, the unlimited budget. Let's say you have $12,000 and you want to spend it all on a PC. This is what you should get. For the CPU, I picked the Ryzen 9 9950X3D, which is the best gaming CPU ever until the time of recording this video. For the RAM, 64 gigabytes, because why not? For the motherboard, I picked the X870E Aorus Elite, because why not? For the power supply, we went with 1200 watts. For the case, my favorite case ever, which is the Height Y70 Touch Infinite. For the storage, we went with the Samsung Gen 5 M.2 8TB. Again, why not? And for the GPU, we picked the RTX 5090, the water-cooled version. This build will cost you around $10,000 to $12,000 and will run everything on 4K ultra settings with very high FPS. This is literally the maximum possible setup that you can get. If you like the video, please subscribe. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.